I stumbled on some information today, and I don't have to read this. The highest thought is always a thought which contains joy. The clearest words are those words which contains truth. The grandest feeling is that feeling which you call love. So this is joy, truth, and love. These three are interchangeable, and one always leads to the other. It matters not which order they are placed. My messages come in 100 forms at 1,000 moments across 1,000,000 years. You cannot miss them if you truly listen. You cannot ignore them once truly heard. Thus will our communication begin in earnest. For in the past you have only talked to me, praying to me, interceding with me, beseeching me. Yet now can I talk back to you, even as I'm doing here. All people are special, and all moments are golden. There is no person, there is no time, one more special than the other. Many people choose to believe that God communicates in special ways, only with special people. The controllers. This removes the masses of the people from responsibility for hearing my message, much less receiving it, which is another matter, and allows them to take someone else's word for everything. You don't have to listen to me, for you've already decided that others have heard from me on every subject, and you have to listen to them. You have them to listen to. By listening to what others people think they heard me say, you don't have to think at all. This is the biggest reason most people turning from my messages on a personal level. If you acknowledge that you're receiving my message directly, then you are responsible for interpreting them. It is far safer and much easier to accept the interpretations of others, even others who have lived 2,000 years ago, than seek to interpret the message you may very well be receiving in this moment now. Yet I invite you to a new form of communication with God, a two-way communication. In truth, it is you who have invited me, for I've come to you in this form right now in answer to your call. School's a place you go if there's something you do not know that you want to know. It's not a place you go if you already know a thing and simply want to experience your knowingness. Life, as you call it, is an opportunity for you to know experientially what you already know conceptually. You need learn nothing to do this. You need merely remember what you already know and act on it. Let's start at the soul. Your soul knows all there is to know all the time. There is nothing hidden to it, nothing unknown. Yet knowing is not enough. The soul seeks to experience. You can know yourself to be generous, but unless you do something which displays generosity, you have nothing but a concept. You can know yourself to be kind, but unless you do someone a kindness, you have nothing but an ideal by yourself. It is your soul's only desire to turn its grandest concept about itself into the greatest experience. Until concept becomes experience, all there is speculation. I have been speculating about myself for a long time, longer than you and I could collectively remember, longer than the age of this universe times the age of the universe. You see, then, how young is, how new is my experience of myself. We could say it in other words, like in the beginning, that which is all there was, and there was nothing else. That's a commercial, and it's they're so distracting. Mute them. Turn them off. In the beginning, that which is all there was, and there was nothing else. Yet all that is could not know itself, because that all is all there was, and there was nothing else. And so all that is was not. For in the absence of something else, all that is not. This is the great is not. Is to which mystics have referred from the beginning of time. Now all that is knew it was all there was. But this was not enough, for it could only know its utter magnificence conceptually, not experientially. If the experience of itself is that for which it longed, for it wanted to know what it felt like to be so magnificent. Still, this was impossible, because the very term magnificent is a relative term. All that is could not know what it felt like to be magnificent unless that which is not showed up. In the absence of that which is not, that which is not. Now the one thing that all that is knew is that there was nothing else. And so it could and would never know itself from a reference point outside of itself. Such a point did not exist. Only one reference point existed, and that was a single place within. The is not is. The am not am. Still, the all of everything chose to know itself experientially. This energy, this pure, unseen, unheard, unobserved, and therefore unknown by anyone else energy, chose to experience itself as the utter magnificence it was. In order to do this, it realized it would have to use a reference point within. It reasoned quite correctly that any portion of itself would necessarily have to be less than the whole, and that if it thus simply divided itself into portions, each portion, being less than the whole, could look back on the rest of itself and see magnificence. And so all that is divided itself, becoming one glorious moment, that which is this and that which is that. For the first time, this and that existed quite apart from each other, and still both existed simultaneously, as did all that was neither. Thus three elements suddenly existed: that which is here, that which is there, and that which is neither here nor there, but which must exist for here and there to exist. This is nothing which holds the everything. It is the non-space which holds the space. It is the all which holds the parts. To go a bit further, now this nothing which holds the everything is what some people call God. Yet that is not accurate either, for it suggests that there is something God is not, namely everything that is not nothing. But I am all things, seen and unseen. So this description of me as the great unseen, the no thing, or the space between, is essentially Eastern mystical definition of God. It's no more accurate than the essentially Western practical description of God as all that is seen. Those who believe that God is all that is, and all that is not, are those whose understanding is correct. Now, in creating which is here and that which is there, God made it possible for God to know itself. In the moment this great explosion from within, God created relativity. The greatest gift God ever gave to itself. Thus, relationship is the greatest gift God ever gave to you. A point to be discussed later. From the no thing, thus sprang the everything, a spiritual event entirely consistent, incidentally, with what your scientists call the Big Bang Theory, as the elements of all race, force, time was created, for a thing was first here, then it was there, and the period it took to get from here to there was measurable. Just as the parts of itself which are seen began to define themselves relative to each other, so too did the parts which are unseen. God knew that for love to exist and to know itself as pure love, His exact opposite had to exist as well. So God voluntarily created the polarity, the absolute opposite of love. Everything that love is not. What is now called fear. In the moment fear existed, love could exist as a thing that could be experienced. In His creation of duality between love and its opposite, which humans refer in their various mythologies as the birth of evil, fall of Adam, rebellion of Satan, and so forth. Just as you had chosen to personify pure love as the character you call God, so have you chosen to personify abject fear as the character you call the devil. Some on earth have established rather elaborate mythologies around this event, complete with the scenarios of battles, war, angelic warriors, devilish warriors, the forces of good and evil, of light and dark. This mythology has been mankind's early attempt to understand and tell others in a way that they could understand, a cosmic occurrence of which the human soul is deeply aware, but of which the mind can barely conceive. In rendering the universe as a divided version of itself, God produced from pure energy all that now exists, both seen and unseen. In other words, not only was the physical universe thus created, but the metaphysical universe as well. The part of God which forms the second half of the am equation also exploded into an infinite number of smaller units than the whole. These energy units you would call spirits. In some of your religious mythology it is stated that the God, the Father, had many spirit children. This parallel to the human experience of life multiplying itself seems to be the only way the masses could be made to hold in reality the ideal of a sudden appearance, the sudden existence of countless spirits in the kingdom of heaven. In this instant, your mythical tales and stories are not far from the ultimate reality, for the endless spirits comprising the totality of me are, in a cosmic sense, my offspring. My divine purpose in dividing me was to create sufficient parts of me so that I could know myself experientially. There is only one way for a creator to know itself experientially as a creator, and that is to create. And so I gave each of the countless parts of me, to all my spirit children, the same power to create which I have as a whole. This is what the religions mean when they say that you were created in the image and likeness of God. This doesn't mean, as some have suggested, that our physical bodies look alike. Although God can adapt whatever physical form God chooses for a particular purpose, it does not mean that our existence is the same. We are composed of the same stuff. We are the same stuff, with the same properties and abilities, including the ability to create physical reality out of thin air. My purpose in creating you, my spiritual offspring, was for me to know myself as God. I have no way to do that save through you. Thus it can be said, and has been many times, that my purpose for you is that you should know yourself as me. This seems so amazingly simple, yet it becomes very complex, because there is only one way for you to know yourself as me, and that is for you first to know yourself as not me. Now try to follow this, keep up, because it gets very subtle here. Remember, you asked for this explanation. You've waited it for years. You've asked it in layman terms, not theological doctrines or scientific theories. And having asked, so shall you receive. Now, to keep things simple, I'm going to use your Children of God mythological model as a basis for discussion, because it is a model with which you're familiar, and in many ways is not that far off. Let's go back to how this process of self-knowing must work. There's only one way I could have caused all my spiritual children to know themselves as parts of me, and that was simply to tell them. This I did. But you see, it was not enough for the spirit to simply know itself as God, or part of God, or children of God, or inheritors of the kingdom, or whatever mythology you want to use. As I've already explained, knowing something and experiencing it are two different things. Spirit longed to know itself experientially, just as I did. Conceptual awareness was not enough for you. So I devised a plan. It is most extraordinary ideal in all the universe, and the most spectacular collaboration. I say collaboration because all of you are in it with me. Under the plan, you as a pure spirit would enter the physical universe just created. This is because physically is the only way to know experientially what you know conceptually. It is in fact the reason I created a physical cosmos to begin with, and the system of relativity which governs it and all creation. Once in the physical universe, you, my spirit children, could experience what you know yourself. But first you had to come to know the opposite. To explain this simplistically, you cannot know yourself as tall unless and until you become aware of short. You cannot experience a part of you that you call fat unless you also come to know thin. Taken to the ultimate logic, you cannot experience yourself as what you are until you've encountered what you're not. This is the purpose of the theory of relativity and all physical life. It is that by which you are not, that you yourself are defined. Now, in the case of ultimate knowing, in the case of knowing yourself as creator, you cannot experience yourself as creator unless and until you create. And you cannot create yourself until you uncreate yourself. In a sense, you have to first not be in order to be. Of course, there's no way for you not be who and what you are. You simply are that pure, creative spirit. Have always been and always will be. So you did the next best thing. You caused yourself to forget who you really are. Upon entering the physical universe, you relinquish your remembrance of yourself, and this allows you to choose to be who you are, rather than simply wake up in the castle, so to speak. It is in the act of choosing to be, rather than simply being told that you are, a part of God, that you experience yourself as being a total choice, which is what, by definition, is God. Yet how can you have a choice about something over which there is no choice? You cannot be my offspring, no matter how hard you try. But you can't forget. You are, have always been, and will always be a divine part of the divine whole, a member of the body. That is why the act of rejoining the whole, of returning to God, is called remembrance. You actually choose to remember who you really are, or to join together with the various parts of you to experience the all of you, which is to say, the all of me. Your job on earth, therefore, is not to learn because you already know, but to remember who you are, and to remember who everyone else is. That is why a big part of your job is to remind others. That is, to remind them, so that they can remember also. All the wonderful spiritual teachers have been doing just that. And it is your sole purpose, that is to say, your sole purpose. And do not worry if there is something about what we've just gone through you do not thoroughly understand. It will all be clearer to you soon enough. Like I said, I just, came by today. This is Conversations with God. Neil Donald Walsh, 1995. I just had to read it because that's, well, you know why. Well, just beauty. Thank you, Father. We're very grateful. Extremely grateful, Father, for all that we receive and have received, and the blessings that we have every day in our lives. We're so blessed. As the blessings go by, you don't even recognize it. Because this other world is coming down around us, and it hides these things. It keeps us from these precious, precious things that need to come out. And we're very grateful, Father, for these gifts, and more coming. Peace out.